everyone. Thank you for those who have jumped on and are joining in. Let's wait a few more seconds. I'm just getting set up opening the chat box. So if you want to do the same, that way we can all participate and join in together, which will be great. Cool. Excellent. So before we get started, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. Thank you for joining me on this Friday. Can you believe it's Friday? I'm excited that it's Friday, but I also don't know what I'm going to do differently because every day feels the same now. Anyway, we can still celebrate that it's Friday. It does mean we can have a little bit of a sleep in tomorrow, if anything. That is enough to get me through. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about some things around expectation management, but what is really going to help get us through this and ensure that it's all making sense is having a little bit of participant engagement and contribution. So I'm just going to ask that you check your chat box. So you should have on my panel, there's 3 dots and I can see, click down and it says chat. So somewhere on your screen, you should be able to find the option to chat to all of us. And then you'll notice when you go to type comments, there's a drop down that says all panelists, which would just come to the Real Schools team, and then there's everyone. So when you click everyone, it means it goes to everyone. So everyone here, and that, if you're comfortable, is the best way to set your default chat box now, so that when it comes to contributing, everyone can share. And that's what really I think we've noticed after doing quite a few of these webinars now, is that that option of sharing to everyone is really bringing the webinar together, because whilst we're sharing some content with you, it is the value that you bring through that our listeners are really benefiting from. Because if you have something to share or say, no doubt someone else will agree with you or be feeling the same thing. And sometimes it's just nice to hear that you're not alone in what you're thinking or how you're feeling, and that someone else is with you in that space too. So if we can all do that today, that would be wonderful. And if everyone can just shout hi, or whatever it is you want to do, just let me know that you're here, and you can, good morning, that you can listen, that you can hear me, so I know everything's working. Fantastic. Yeah, it's Friday. Hi from Canberra. Hi, I'm from Canberra too. So there we go. Isn't that great? It's not a very nice day here though. I think it's going to rain later. Well, look, we've got people from everywhere. South Australia, Melbourne. So exciting that no matter what is happening in the world right now, we can still all come together to talk about something that we all believe in and is valuable to us from the Gold Coast, but from all corners of the country, which is really cool. Pre-service teacher, good on you for being here. What a great commitment to make to yourself today. Okay, let's get started. Yeah, going back to work. Yeah, okay, so you've been in ISO, wow. Rain, yeah. Fantastic. So we're doing our welcome. So we might start today. I have been starting with like a 1-word thing. Tell me how you feel, but let's start with something different. Let's start with what's something you're hoping to get out of today, or something that you would maybe like some more clarity around, or something that you feel like if you had that one question answered, you'd feel like this was a valuable use of your time today. So what is it that you want to get out? Why have you showed up? Maybe you're just here simply to listen. Maybe you're here because it gives you a positive way to start your day. What have you got? Connection, lovely. Being able to support, inspiration. Tips and tricks, love it. Yeah, supporting, connection, inspiration, motivation, understanding. You start planning next week. Okay, yep. Yep, supporting staff in your schools, really important, isn't it? Yeah. Brilliant. So this whole webinar was designed around how to kind of manage your own expectations. And I think this is something that is, we'd all be struggling with this, right? We'd all be feeling a little bit uncomfortable with our expectations at the moment, because as teachers, we have such high expectations on ourselves to do amazing jobs. And we base that on what we know school to be. We know schools to be the physical building, so the spaces that we're in. We know schools to be the classroom environment that we set up as teachers. We know schools to be our students and the way that they connect and they learn with each other. We know schools even based on just the sounds of chatter and kids playing and laughing and balls bouncing and bells ringing, and all of those things help to build our expectations on how we go about our day. And all of a sudden those things are kind of missing. They're not really there anymore, if at all. You know, some of us aren't even going into our building space anymore. So we're having to adjust the expectations, not just of our day, but of ourself. And because what we know has been school or teacher life or, you know, our workplace for such a long time has shifted, we're now having to shift our expectations. And so I want to just start by saying that as we go through today's webinar, let's really be open-minded in the fact that what we're dealing with isn't normal anymore. And so our expectations may not align. And this is about having to make some shifts within ourselves around what we can and can't do and what we can succeed in, or what we might be struggling with, that if we just tweak a little bit of our focus or what we're thinking about, we can see that we can do it. It's just about doing it differently. And I think that will really help to be able to better manage our expectations. It's so easy to beat ourselves up over something we want to do or we're trying to do or how we want to feel. And we're so used to in schools having students around us and them making us laugh and smile, or being able to pop into the staff room and have a cuppa because you know someone is there who's going to be able to just hang with you or chat or bounce an idea off. And so many of those things for us, as we know to be normal, are missing. And this is a time where we really have to connect back into with who we're being so that we can show up in those ways, even if our environment is different. So that's where we're going to head today. And I hope that that is sitting with some of you and you're like, yeah, that's kind of what I need to hear. So let's get going. Yeah. So where do our expectations come from? I actually just love meerkats, side note, but I love this image too. Whenever I go to a zoo or something, I have to just go and look at the meerkats, and they're my ultimate favorite. But what I love about them is that their expectation is always about danger. There is always something that's going to come and get in their way. And that's why they have this head meerkat. Actually, they rotate their times that they're on lookout. So they take shifts because they're all about protecting each other. They're all about making sure that everyone is safe, and they all have a certain role to play. I don't know what a group of meerkats is called. We'll call them a tribe. In their little tribe, their little family. And this one meerkat that you always see when you go to a zoo, or if you watch that Meerkat Manor show or wherever it is, they're on lookout because their expectation is danger can come at any moment. And so they're always ready to do their fight, flight or freeze thing, which is our response system when danger comes. We react in one of those fight, flight or freeze frames that happen. And so they're getting ready to tell everyone. Now, meerkats, they flight, they go and hide, they go into their burrows. I don't think freezing would be a successful strategy for them, and they're not big enough to fight off anything, and they're way too cute. So a mob of meerkats, thank you. So they get in their little mobs and they do this rotational thing where they're always on the lookout for danger. So their expectations are pretty normal. They know what to do all the time, and they know how to look after each other. And we as teachers know how to look after each other. But the expectation of what's coming our way in a day is shifting now. So I'm not saying that we always had someone in our teacher mob looking out for danger. We don't, but we always have people looking out for us. We always have people who are kind of just on the sidelines a little bit, peering in your window or taking notice of you as they walk past you in a corridor or a hallway. There's always that hidden thing that teachers do where they have each other in mind to make sure that everyone is safe and looked after and cared for. And that's a wonderful part about working in a community and connecting with each other, because we have the opportunity to do that. And now with what we're seeing in this online space, we're missing some of that opportunity to be able to do that. And so our expectations around how we go about that are shifting. And what's happening, I think, with a lot of us is we're looking internally at ourselves and we're trying to just protect ourselves right now, because that's all we can do. We have this sense of uncertainty, and that word is being used a lot right now. We have this sense of uncertainty in the space that we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what we're going to be doing after school holidays. So some of you are on holidays already. Some of you, I think, are waiting till here in Canberra, and I think Queensland is the end of next week. So we just don't know if we're going back. We don't know if we're going to be with our students. We don't know if we're going to be with our staff and connecting with people that we know. And so we start to kind of tell ourselves stories or fill in the gaps, because as humans, that's what we do. We create stories and then we attach meaning to things. And in like the coaching NLP world, there's this phrase which says nothing has meaning unless you attach meaning to it. So the only meaning that exists is the one that you create. And what we're doing now is we're creating all of this kind of meaning based on the expectations that in some ways we're making up because we simply have no evidence of what's going to happen. And that's our survival technique, because if there is no story and if there's nothing that we can hang on to, we will just fill in the gaps as best we can. So I want to spend a bit of time looking at how we do that and how that is potentially impacting on your day and how you're feeling right now. So our representation of reality is made up by our sensory system. So we have our 5 senses, as you know, and things happen to us all the time. Even just sitting on this webinar is an experience. Walking to your kitchen to make a cup of tea would be something else. Going to school, something else. And as we go about our day, our senses are just always going off. We process and take in around 4 million bits of information a second. Massive, massive amount of things that are registering in our brain right now. So if I even just look at where I'm sitting, I'm delivering this webinar, I'm going through content in my head, I am talking, my desk is covered in, I've got a jar of roses, I've got a water bottle, a phone, a notepad, I've got blazers hanging up next to me, some little quotes, a diary, like I'm taking in everything I can see. I've got my cat beside me, so somewhere my head is like, keep your eye on him, because if he decides to get up and jump in your face, like you got to be prepared for that. So I'm drinking tea. I'm taking in so many pieces of information right now, but I'm not consciously doing that. I'm not consciously thinking every second, this, and this. Because what we do is we then have a filtering system. So we have a filtering system when we're based in a situation, or every second, that filters out all of the information we're taking in, and unconsciously we get rid of a lot of information. So this is filtered through time, space, matter and energy systems. We filter situations based on language that's being used or our understanding of language. We filter situations based on gestures, or there should be a space there, gestures, memories that we have, past decisions that we've made, our experiences and our circumstances, our beliefs and our values, and our attitudes. So lots of those things filter every moment in time, unconsciously. We don't know what's happening, and we don't know that we're even doing it. Like, I'm not sitting here and you're not sitting there knowing that you're taking in bits of information and looking at them in different ways. So our mind is always continuously working. Our unconscious is always continually working to help create our reality. Then once we have filtered that second through our system, we delete, distort and generalize. And this is kind of where I want to unpack, so we know that how our thoughts are made, which is shaping our realities and expectations. It is coming together, I promise. So after we've filtered our experience, we then delete, distort and generalize. So deleting is a big chunk. You couldn't possibly take in 4 million bits of information every second. So we simply just delete and get rid of things that aren't relevant to us. Like, I don't need to know what colored pens are in the tray above me. I don't need to know, like, this faint sound I can hear in the back, which is probably the fridge, whatever, it's not a big deal. Like, I don't need to know all of that stuff. So instantly my unconscious will delete that. Then we distort information. So our filtering systems are, especially things like our beliefs and values, our circumstances or experience, they really help us to distort information so that it aligns up with things that we want to believe and perceive. So our values are things that are really important to us. So a really easy thing is like health and fitness might be a value for you, family and connection might be a value for you, money might be a value for you, time to self might be a value to you. We have all kinds of values. They look different for different people. We use different words that connect with us based on what they are. And your beliefs are the things that help to support and underpin those values. We have circumstances and experiences, so things that we've been through that have helped us to get to where we are or shaped us to get to where we are. You might even know this, it can be called similarly to social conditioning, so how we're brought up and the social conditions that we've taken on, because that helps us to fit into society, which is connected to our huge sense of belonging. And then we have things like decisions we've made, which have got us here. So we're distorting information all the time to align with our filtering systems. And then we generalize stuff as well. So, you know, if you're walking down the street and you see a dog across the road, you might generalize and think, oh, I have to stay away from dogs because when you were 4, a dog bit you. And so you've created this belief that all dogs are dangerous. That's kind of how phobias and things are developed. Once we've done all that, we have a thought. So it's massive. Like what we go through just to create one thought in our brain is huge. Like that's just exhausting talking about it. So I imagine if this is brand new to you, this is connected to the work of Richard Bandler, who was a leader in NLP. So if you are interested in this and you want to know more about how we create our thoughts and our reality and our expectations, it's all linked to this, so you can look that up. But that's a really short snapshot of how our brain processes information and those 4 million bits of information that come to us every second, believe it or not. I'll get the name to you, absolutely. It's Bandler is the surname, so I think it's Bandler, I think. And he was the creator of NLP, so neuro-linguistic programming. The beauty of NLP and where this comes from is that you can start to, once you have an understanding of this, play around with your beliefs and your values and your attitudes and the stories you tell yourself so that you can reshape your reality. And that's what we're getting with expectations, because reality as we know it is different, right? Now, what I want to say about this whole framework is that it helps to shape our reality, but it only shapes our reality as in one person, because we have different beliefs, we have different circumstances, we have different decision-making strategies, we have different social conditionings. Because everything is different for everyone, our two realities are not the same. So my reality around what's happening with teachers in the teacher space will be different to yours, which will be different to the teacher whom you taught next door, which will be different to the staff you look after. Because whilst we're trying to grapple with this, we're also trying to make it match our filtering system and our version of reality that we want to understand and stick to. So once we do all this crazy stuff, all this massive amount of stuff, we create thoughts, and that in turn creates our reality. And that is where we are right now. So all the time we're tossing things around in our head, and we're creating stories, and we're making things up, and we're making them match our filtering systems, and then we delete, distort, and generalize. And that's basically what we do all the time to create our life. And that is the representation of what we see our world and how we engage with it and how we connect with it. And it's why you can be in a situation with someone, like you have the exact same experience, but the stories you tell are different, or the way you interpret it are different, or the way it's why when you send something in an email, the meaning of it can get distorted because someone's filtering system isn't the same as yours, and so the intention can be taken differently. It's why you can have an argument with your partner and it can be a big deal to someone, but not a big deal to the other person, because you have different beliefs or values, or you were brought up to believe different things, and so they're clashing. It's why within a classroom we can see students act differently even though the situation is the same in black and white. But once we start bringing our own self into it, we interpret and we change things so that it's quite extreme. You can have two people experience the same event is what I'm looking for, the same event, and their interpretation of it is completely different. And that's why when it comes to looking at our expectations right now, we've got to ask ourselves, what are we building our expectations on? What version of reality are we connecting in with? What are we distorting and generalizing right now? What beliefs and attitudes are we playing on here? What does that look like? So does that make sense for everyone? If that's new, I understand that is a lot to take in, but has anything I've said there kind of connected with you, or you get it, or you're like, oh, I don't really get it? What are we thinking? I'm just going to drink my tea. I'll assume no one is typing, or you're all writing me really big messages. It's one or the other. Here we go. Yeah, great reminder. Cool. Got it. Yeah, it is. Prudence, you're right. It is about having awareness that whilst we're going through this situation, people's representation of reality will be different because we're all experiencing it different. And then when you bring in also different circumstance around what maybe home life is like, or different students they had in their classroom, or what stages of their career they're in, it's really going to impact expectations that we have on ourselves. So let's move on. I want to talk a little bit about our reality and the story we tell ourselves. Cool. So the reality that we tell ourselves is really about the story that we make. So we are right now creating a story around what school life can be like, around what our home life can be like, around what we can do with our day. I don't know about you, but I've really struggled with, I actually live a pretty boring life. I work from home anyway. I don't have a crazy social life. I don't eat out a lot. I don't do anything like that. I pretty much work from home, go to the gym, do my grocery shopping, and go out for walks on the weekend, drink coffee with my girlfriends, and hang out with my family. That's really my life in a nutshell. And I travel quite a bit, like see the world, travel in holidays. And all of a sudden, my life is not that different, right? So, I mean, I am still working from home, so I haven't been impacted. I can't go to the gym, I can't have coffee with my girlfriends, and I can't go and see my sister and nephews who live 90 minutes away. That is massively playing on my mind. So what I start doing, this is how extreme we can get. This is what I've started to tell myself, and I've really had to step back into going, why am I doing that? I've started to go, what if I never see my sister again? What if I never see my nephews again? Like, we play worst case scenario. What if the gyms never open again and I have to work out on my balcony for the rest of my life? This is the crazy stuff that we start to tell ourselves because we have no answer. So we create these stories essentially to give us some kind of certainty into what might happen. But because of human nature, we come up with these like extreme things, which is part of our survival technique because we want to prepare for worst case scenario. But at the same time, it's not helpful. It's not helpful to sit in that space. So what I've had to start to do is really ask myself, what is the story I want to be telling myself? What do I actually have right now? Like, really, what do I have? I mean, how lucky are we to be sitting in this moment right now and have access to internet like we do? And things like Zoom or Facebook chat or House Party app, if you've tried that. Like, we are so lucky and privileged to be able to have that at our fingertips, even though we're locked down in our houses essentially. I can still connect with my family. My nephew's in kindergarten. I still do reading with him online twice a week. I do his home reader. It's lovely. One of my brothers is only just right down the road. So can I go to his house? I'm still kind of vague on the rules. But what I do know is I think we can go for a walk together if we're 1.5 meters apart. If I've got that wrong, please let me know. But like, I can do that. It's just that it's kind of like all of those little things that we took for granted are taken away from us. We didn't notice them when they were there. So, but now that we can't do them, they're amplified because anything that we lose all of a sudden can become quite amplified, and we start doing these worst case scenario things, which our reality of right now can become a little bit distorted because we want to fill in the gaps. And that in a way is about helping with our uncertainty, but it also can heighten it. So we have to really stop and ask ourselves, what do we have right now? What is the story we can use right now? And it comes back to being, I think, really present with what it is that we can do. So we don't have access to our classrooms. We don't have access to our students in the same way. We don't have access to resources like we used to be able to have access to them. But what do we have? We have online learning and we have online platforms. We still have the ability to connect with our students in whole class or small group. We still have the ability to plan fun and exciting, engaging lessons. We still have the opportunities to connect with staff and build that connection and those relationships. It just looks differently. There's nothing from stopping you from deciding, well, we can't get to the literal physical staff room building at 11, but we can all jump online and have a coffee together and a chit chat. We can still do those things. It's just knowing that the reality we have right now is going to be different. And so the expectations we have to have are going to be different. It's not going to be useful for us to continually sit in a space of, well, I don't have this and I don't have that and I don't have that, because we're almost setting ourselves up to have these expectations we can never meet. Like, we've just got to go with what we've got. And that's where we've got to recheck in with our expectations and say, is what I'm expecting part of my reality right now? Is what I'm expecting myself to be able to do in terms of time, resources, connection with students, is that all connected to my reality, or am I still putting some old pressures on myself that don't align with what I've got right now? Is that making sense? How are we going with that? I'm just going to drink more tea, so feel free to share. Yeah, it's difficult. I hear you. It's difficult not to be able to look too far forward. It is a skill. I think that's something that we have to. There's lots of talk about being present in the moment, but this is a time where we really can execute that. It is about, I think, if we can break time down into smaller chunks, it gives us something more tangible in being able to know that there's success in that. So the reason that like, I know what I'm doing, which is going, oh my God, what if I never see my sister again? The reason that we go to those extreme things is because that idea of time for our brain is really quite abstract. We don't know how long this is going to go on for. And so we start to play out these worst case scenarios and ridiculous stories. But if I was to say to myself, this is what I have to start doing, so otherwise I think I'll just go crazy. You know what, let's just look at the next 7 days or the next work week. What we know over the next 7 days, really what our life is going to be like, what our reality is. We know what we have. We know what we can and can't do. We know when we have meetings or when we don't have meetings. We know when we've got to teach or when we don't teach. We know when we can fit other stuff in. So once we start to bring time back to a place where we can actually see it to be a tangible thing, it's easier to manage in our head, because we can start to plot things in. We can start to go, well, this is what my day will look like. And that brings some certainty into this whole crazy time. That can mean that we can set some expectations which are going to be realistic, because we know what the next 7 days is going to look like. But as soon as we start going 7 days into 1 month, into 3 months, into 6 months, that's when it gets really scary. So I think right now, one of the things that we can start to do is look at, what are we doing over the next 7 days, maybe 14 days? And that is really all we can look at. That is where we can start to go, okay, so my expectation around learning at this time is here. Is that achievable? Yeah, it totally is. Can I do it for 6 weeks? No, because who knows what is going to happen in 6 weeks or what our reality will be. So it's about managing our expectations in the time that we can actually get a hold of. And I think that long-term stuff is probably it's too out of our control right now. So we've got to be able to bring it back into, let's just look at the next 2 weeks. I even go, let's look at the next 2 weeks, 1 week. Let's just look at today. I break my day into 30-minute chunks. It just helps me to have some kind of certainty and control over what's happening. Yeah, breaking your planning into manageable chunks. So 2 weeks is the max. Absolutely. I even actually adopt that practice in school anyway. I think if you plan you obviously have your scope and sequence or an overview, but if you plan too far for that, you don't know what's going to happen. And so 2 weeks max, I think, is all we can really be looking at for how life is right now. And that means that you can still put some expectations on yourself that are high, but it also means that you'll know if they're achievable, and we won't be doing this whole, oh, can I do it? Can't I do it? It's not the same. Will it be the same? What if we just got to go with what we've got. So we've got to write that new story, which I've pretty much already talked about, but we've got to write that new story around, let's just all agree now that we just look at the next 2 weeks. What do we have? What do we know? What is the certainty in that? So what expectations can I start to think, oh yeah, I actually can do that. You know what? I actually can put some routine back into my day. I actually can maybe do a little bit of assessment with my students. I actually can plan the first 2 weeks of term. I actually can throw it out to my team and say, hey, twice a week, do you just want to have an online staff meeting coffee? We can start to do some of those things if we're aware of what the time looks like that we have access to and what things are possible. So what kind of new stories could you start to tell yourself around how you're managing the expectations that you've put on yourself already? What are some new things that you could be kind of thinking, you know what, actually we can do that. Actually, this is an opportunity here, or this is something that I can shift so that it's closer to the reality that I have. Just drop that in the chat box. I'm just going to scroll up. Yeah. regularly reminding yourself to take it one day at a time is very different to your usual pace. Yeah, I hear you. I'm a big planner, and I think definitely that's made me feel a little bit uneasy, is that I can't plan. So having to plan just one day at a time, or, you know, thinking about what we're going to do tomorrow is pretty much as far as I can go. It really pushes that idea of being present with where you are. I think it's a reminder that often we live too far in the future, and when you're always planning for or living in the future, you're missing out on the present and the now. And this is a big shift for everyone, I think, to just connect back in with this is now. This is all we have, are those moments. Yeah. So how do we manage our expectations? So I've talked about that already. And this conversation around just looking at the time you have is that. And knowing that some things that you've always done before or wanted to do or have put into your day, we have to let some things go. We really have to let some things go. And that's okay. I think this feeling of, oh my God, I don't know if I'm doing it right. No one knows if you're doing it right. As a Real Schools team, we were talking earlier this week, you know, Malcolm Gladwell, if you don't know his work, he talks about the 10,000 hour theory. So the 10,000 hour theory is that if you are to be an expert at something, you have to have spent 10,000 hours on it. And he's done all kinds of studies, like with chess players or tennis players or violinists. There's some great examples in his book. Outliers, I think, is the book. And I think what we have to remember is that whilst we might be expert teachers and have over 10,000 hours of practice and work as a teacher in a classroom, no one is an expert at this online learning thing, because no one has 10,000 hours worth of expertise under their belt here. So we have to remember that whilst we might be wanting to do absolutely the same thing, we just can't. This is all unknown for everyone, and we have to keep coming back to, we can only do what we can do right now, and that is, let's look at the next day, week, 2 weeks at the most. Yeah, you have to be kind to yourself, absolutely. I've talked a lot about that in this series, and I think that is definitely part of our expectations. So I want to just share a little model with you around, again, it's a coaching model called Be Do Have. And I think it will really help in being able to manage our expectations, because lots of us flip the Be Do Have model around. And what we're finding now with this is that probably at the moment we're really in that do space. And I just want to talk to you about how this might help be able to manage expectations. Someone's just said, yeah, open air access teachers, old School of the Air, sharing heaps in South Australia apparently. Interesting, might be worth looking into that. I guess that they are the exception to that and would be experts in this field. So leveraging off School of the Air teachers is something we should be looking at, I agree. So Be Do Have is the model, but often what we do as humans, or when we're in a place of uncertainty, is we flip this model around and we look at it in terms of have, do, be. And so, you know, often the one I hear from teachers is, when I have more time, then I'll be able to plan better lessons, and then I'll be happier in my classroom space. Or, you know, when I have more energy, then I'll be able to do more exercise, and then I'll feel better about myself. And that's like a waiting strategy. We're just waiting for something to happen. We're waiting to have something. And often we can use this stream or this cycle when we're feeling like we're really overwhelmed, or when we're stuck in a place of procrastination. So it's not necessarily useful or resourceful to us. So when we look at this model, it's about knowing, you know, what is the story here? Am I telling myself, well, when I have better access to online services, I'll be able to plan better lessons, and then I'll be more effective with my online learning? Are we telling ourselves, well, when I have the online platform set up with my students, then I'll be able to look at how I'm going to group them for strategic lessons, and then I'll be more present in the learning I'm delivering, or whatever it might be? Is that the story you're telling yourself? Because if you are, that's the waiting story. That's the procrastination story. That's the it's all too hard right now story. And that's kind of a dangerous place to be, because nothing happens when you're in that story. Nothing happens when you're in that space. And you find yourself just waiting. So it's like a wishing, waiting and hoping strategy. None of those things work. And so you have to be able to really just connect in now with the stories that you've been telling yourself, so that we can really look at the results we want to get and how are our expectations aligning with that. Yeah, someone said one of the advantages of forced to stay at home is the opportunity to practice mindfulness. Yeah, this is a bit of mindfulness stuff. I wasn't going to throw that in there, but it is a little bit like that. So the other way that we can look at this model is the do have be model, which is where doers, and I think I'm guilty and teachers are guilty of falling into the do strategy. So we were always doing something. We're always planning that next lesson. We're always changing that display. We're always looking at the next assessment. We're always rushing from meeting to meeting to meeting. We're always doing this and that and this and that and this and that, because we think once we do it, then we'll have it and we'll be something. Now, the problem with this is, if you're a doer, is that there's always something to do and you'll never be happy. You'll never be fulfilled. You'll never feel like you've been successful or something at something, because there's always something else to do. Now, instantly, as I say that, because it's part of my internal systems, is that, but what's wrong with that? Why is it bad to have something to do? The idea of always having something to do can really put you in a trap and put you in a space of never feeling like you're good enough, or never feeling like you've done enough, or never feeling like you've been successful enough, because you haven't finished that list, or because you do finish it and then you're looking to add something to it. And this can just create chaos. This can lead to exhaustion. This can lead to overwhelm and burnout, because you feel like you are not doing enough, you haven't done enough, there's always something else to do. And so, yeah, that's a great reminder there, Clayton, is that it can lead to that continuous feel of pressure. I guess that's what I mean when I say overwhelm too. It can, like, you are just putting immense amounts of pressure on yourself to keep doing. So I want to challenge you all to really, instead of go to that do or that have space, so that procrastination or overwhelm space, whichever one, is, I think now is a really good time to look at the being space. And this, oh, that's around the wrong way. It must be the next one. Yeah, this be, do, have. Yeah, actually, let's go back. This be, do, have thing. Because the other thing we can do is go into be, have, do. So whilst I might feel like I'll be confident and then I'll have more opportunity to connect with staff, then I'll actually do it. We can flip it. When I am more energized, then I'll have more time to exercise, so then I'll do it. And again, this is not exactly how it works. It's closer, because you're looking at terms of state of being first, but we sometimes forget that the action and the have part come after. So I want to just ask you right now, see the text under the headings, I'm not sure this one, this is the one you meant, yeah. I want to just ask you right now to kind of think about, rather than what it is you want to do, or rather than thinking about what you want to have or don't have, how do you want to be in terms of looking at who you are as an educator, a teacher, a person, maybe more time at home, that's something that's playing on your mind. How do you want to be? Do you want to be organized? Do you want to be present? Do you want to be focused? I love that word, calm. I think I do a bit of journaling. That word was coming up today. Do you want to be dedicated, knowledgeable, helpful, generous? Yeah, calm is coming through a lot. I think calm really links closely to that uncertainty and anxiety that a lot of us are feeling. Anyone got any other words? Optimistic, lovely. You just want to feel like it's okay. Yeah, that's cool. I think that idea of it's okay can also feel, that comes back to not looking too far in the future, and just putting expectations around this little bit of time that we can actually see that is tangible to us, so it's not so abstract. So not looking ahead all the time. So you want to be more present. You want to be more connected to now. Yeah. So over the weekend, it might be a good idea to sit down and just ask yourself, how do you want to be? So this is connected to your state of being. So even like just being happy is certainly something that I think some people are struggling with at the moment, because it's so easy to fall down that negative spiral of, but what do I have to be happy about? We actually have quite a lot to be happy about, so many things. So how do you want to be right now? And then ask yourself, well, what do I need to do to be that? So what do I need to do if I want to be present? What do I need to do if I want to be organized? What do I want to do if I need to be knowledgeable in this space? And then what will I have? What will that give me if I do that? So if you want to be more knowledgeable about online learning, what do you have to do? You have to learn how to do it, that's the starting point. And then what will that give you? It'll give you a sense of calm because you won't feel so stressed about going into the unknown anymore. You know, if you want to be more organized because you feel like it's chaotic right now, then you have to put some structure around your day. You have to be able to build in some timelines and some time frames or some expectations. And then what will that give you? That might give you more freedom because you're not living frantically anymore. So instead of thinking about what it is you have to do or what you want to have, focus on who you want to be. Now, if that stumps you, one of the great ways to go and do this is look at those leaders or those people you admire. What traits do they have? So what do great leaders do, or a great school leader you've had, or a great teacher that you've been connected before, or a celebrity or someone, I don't know, like Oprah or someone like that. What are the traits of those people that you connect with, that you resonate, that when you look at you think, I'd really love to be that? And then ask yourself, what do they do to be that person? What does that look like? And then what will that give me if I can go through that process of being able to do that and be something? So this is a bit of a flipped model because we're asking that you be something before you have something. And it's not normally the way we're conditioned or the stories we tell ourselves or how we're brought up to be. So if you Eat, Pray, Love. Elizabeth Gilbert, fantastic book. I actually just read Committed too, her other book. I highly recommend that if you want some holiday reading. That's funny. So if you have some time over the weekend, go in and really just sit with yourself and say, you know, who do I want to be right now? Because I think all we have is the next week or 2 weeks where we can really focus on. And so who do I want to be in that space? Often our frustrations come from, we perceive them to be coming from things we don't have, or because we're not feeling right or whatever, but actually it comes from not being who we desire to be. And so just sit in that. You know, who do you want to be? Who are those great people you admire? Who are they? What traits do they have? What do you need to do to have that trait? And then what will it give you in the end? Who thinks that they could commit to doing that or agree to doing that over the weekend, or is maybe just thinking, oh yeah, I've never really thought about that. I'm just going back and reading your comments because I think I missed quite a few. If I'm calm, it'll help others around me to know that I can manage. Yeah. I wonder then too, will it help you to know you can manage too? Like, what does it give back to you? So as teachers, we are so easily to fall into the position of giving to others and what others think, and which is fantastic. And also ask yourself, what does it do for you right now? I don't know, Clayton, if you can share a picture. You're welcome to email it to me at amy@realschools.com.au to know if that is helpful. That all comes back to being okay, calm, grace, take a balanced view. Yeah, you're going to give it a try? Cool. A few post-it notes around the house definitely does help. Screensavers on your phone are also fantastic places to put these. Not that we're driving much anymore, but on the visor of your car is great. Also, when you put it down, if you have post-it notes in there, it's like, oh, it reminds you. Yeah. Love this, definitely can apply it. Thinking about energizing. Patience is another one. Yeah, allows you to refocus. And I think that's a great word around focus, because at the moment we probably feel like we've lost a little bit of focus and it's a bit frantic. And so we have expectations on ourselves to do things, but they're just not in line with our reality right now. They're not in line with what we actually have available to us. They're not in line with even how we want to be. So it can even be, you know, when I was at my best teaching self, how was I being? Or when you have amazing lessons, you know, when you teach an amazing lesson and you kind of have that moment where you pause and you just look at your kids and you're like, yeah, I've done a great job. Or the kids go out to break and you're like, that was amazing. You feel like you have to rush and tell someone, or you just get that little bit of buzz about it. What was that? You know, maybe you, as part of being, you were energized, or you were giving to your students, or you were just fun or funny. We can still be all those things. It's just, how do we do that with the reality that we have, and how do our expectations match that? Okay, I'll check my emails. Thanks for sharing that. Fantastic. So I hope that has that has given you a different way to kind of think about expectations that we put on ourselves, and that sometimes it's more about connecting in with what we have right now and the reality that we have, and reshaping those stories that we use so that they work for us, so that they another great thing to do when you look at this and you start to think about the stories that you're telling yourself and rewriting the reality you have access to, is it doesn't have to be real. It doesn't have to be happening. It doesn't have to be something that you already have evidence of. It can just be something that you aspire to have happen, or aspire to be, or something that you're working towards. So another great way to do this is to kind of visualize what it will look like when you do have it, so that you can get into the space of, when I achieve it, this is what I'll have, this is how I'll feel, this is what it will impact, this is what it will look like. We don't necessarily have it now, but we know that we're working towards that. And so that's another great way to kind of check in with other stories that you're telling yourself, working for you or against you. So from a belief system point of view, we would say, are they resourceful or unresourceful? So a really quick example off the top of my head is around time. I think teachers do themselves a disservice when a belief is, you know, well, if I don't work on weekends, I'm not a good teacher. That is simply not a resourceful belief to have. There is no evidence that that is true. But if you believe it, you're going to make yourself work on weekends every weekend, and then you're going to resent that because that's not necessarily how you want it to be. So really check in with those stories that you are telling yourself. And, you know, the beauty about our programming and our filtering system is that we can rewrite beliefs to be, it's the amount of quality time that I put into my teaching practice that matters, not the amount of time based on a clock. We can rewrite all of these stories. And that's probably something I would recommend that you even sit down and do over the weekend as well, is really start to look at, well, what am I telling myself? Is it working for me or not? Now, if the answer is no, write something different. Doesn't have to be true, doesn't have to be real right now, but just by putting it on paper, you're saying to yourself it's an option, and then you can start to work towards making it happen. And there's real power in connecting in with that. Yeah, even just that idea of asking what if, or what are all the opportunities that we have available to us right now, is another great question to go with. If I didn't do that, what else could I have done? And listing as many possibilities as you can think of is another great way to see all the other variables that you can have to a situation. It's about stretching and extending our filtering system, so that, because what happens in the brain is it's like a muscle. When you continually use the same one, it just becomes, and it's more and more repetitive, like water going down a mountain. It will just fall down the most used path. Now, at the moment, the water in our brain is going down the most used path, whatever that is, and we have to teach it that it can go a different way. So you have to have conscious awareness around your thoughts and just build new pathways in your brain. It's about building newer pathways. So we have to teach ourselves to do that. So having some awareness around thought is probably a good thing to carry with you into the weekend, and just watching yourself in those stories, watching yourself on that language you use, watching yourself in some of those belief things that might pop up, and then, you know, just going back to, but who do I want to be right now? Who do I need to be? Who do other people need me to be as well? Is also a great thing to do, especially if you're in a leader space, but also we're all leaders as teachers, so for our students too, and even just your family around you. Cool. I feel like I've talked a lot. There's a lot of information for a Friday morning, definitely, but I hope that sets you up on some kind of path with some things to do over the weekend that are going to help move into a space where your expectations can become a little bit more aligned with not what you want to do, but who you want to be. Fantastic. And I think what we need to keep in mind is that this is happening for everyone. You know, this is happening for our parents, this is happening for our students, this is happening for our teachers as well. So, you know, if you can share any of this with your staff or your students or even parents as well, this can be a really empowering thing. But also, what this is about is just have awareness that everyone is tackling this in different ways based on their reality right now, and everyone's being asked to kind of write a different story, and it's hard. So just have that in the back of your mind as you go about your week. All right, so I'm going to finish up. If you just want to drop in that comment box, I guess, what's the biggest insight you've taken away from today's session? That would be really useful. So perfect session to finish the week with. You are welcome. Thank you. Or an aha moment or something, that would be great. And I'm just going to talk to you about next Thursday. We are running a trivia night. Yeah, looking forward to it, us too. It's going to be so much fun. We're not really sure, I'll be honest with you, we're not sure how it's going to work. We acknowledge right now that we are not experts in the trivia field. There will probably be errors and mistakes, but everyone needs a laugh and a bit of fun, and that's what it's all about. So we've been working on different questions and puzzles for you. We've been putting together different ways we're going to be able to tap into different expertise areas that you might have, some trivia questions that you'll know things about and other things that you'll be like, I have no idea, and that's all part of the fun. So it is next Thursday. If you haven't registered, if you head to the Real Schools Facebook page, you will find the link for trivia. And I am certain Adam or Simon have been on here posting upcoming webinars that we have, and also the trivia night link. So if you scroll back to the comments while I'm just finishing up, you will see some links there. So click on those and open them. Again, they're on our Facebook page, the Real Schools Facebook page. You can find them too. So if you haven't signed up for trivia, do it. You can most definitely do it in a team. We'll just ask that one person logs on and registers, and you work out yourself if you want to have like a WhatsApp chat or a Facebook chat or something open to get answers in, but you can definitely all participate somehow. BYO, drinks and food, of course, social distancing does apply, but this is all about fun. So if you're looking for a great way to start the Easter weekend or start your holidays, please jump on and join us. We're really looking forward to bringing that to you. Also, so Real Schools Academy has just launched its first free 5-day course. So you can find that again on the Real Schools website. And this is for any teacher. So it was originally for graduate teachers, but we're just giving this to any teacher because what teacher doesn't need their life to be a little bit easier right now? And that will take teachers through 5 days of self-guided learning where they can look at some skills on how to just make teaching a little bit more easier and able to manage it in a way that is going to really help them through this situation, but also through the rest of the teaching career. So if you are a teacher or you know any teachers who would benefit from just doing a little bit of something over the holidays, then head to the Real Schools website and you'll find the links there. I think the button is complete the trial course or something like that, and you can sign up. But I'm going to leave you there with all of that. I'm just quickly going to scroll through and make sure I didn't miss any questions. But have a great weekend, whatever you're doing. Exciting. Rewriting negative stories. Share with my colleagues from the Facebook page. So if you want to share this recording, it will be made available to you in the next like 24, 48 hours. Keep an eye out for it. So we will, I think you get sent the link, but then all of the PL series that we've run so far will be put onto the Facebook page, the Real Schools Facebook page. You have to do a bit of scrolling to find them, but they're definitely there. So if you've missed any past ones as well and you want to be able to catch up, then please do head to the Facebook page or YouTube, and you will just find the recordings there and you'll be able to watch them. That's really, and please, yeah, absolutely, share them with anyone. Absolutely, that's what it's for. So think about who you want to be and not what you want to do. It is a perspective shift. Need to create some new water paths. Yeah, it's a reminder for us all, right? Yeah, food for thought. It was deep, wasn't it? It was deep for a Friday morning, but I'm just, thank you for hanging in there. Yeah, really good. Yeah, change your mindset to support staff to accept current conditions and the best way to move forward. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Fantastic. Fabulous. All right, we'll leave it there. Have a great weekend. We're back Monday as well. Adam will be bringing you another great session Monday, so make sure if you haven't signed up for that, I know the links were in here, and yeah, it's on the Facebook page too. We'll be sharing it. You'll see it. Have a great weekend.